Wait, you're not gonna believe this. This story is blowing up across the US right now, and it's changing everything. You're watching Trend Shock now. Stay ahead or stay confused. Let's break it down.
The alliance that won World War II, rebuilt Western civilization, and kept nuclear war from happening for 80 years just got a Truth Social post. Not a phone call, not an emergency summit, not a classified briefing to Allied commanders. A Truth Social post saying the United States is studying the possible reduction of troops in Germany, Italy, and Spain. And the reason? Because their leaders had the audacity to say out loud what every military analyst in Washington knows privately, that this Iran war has no exit strategy. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what Trump just did, why Europe is not folding the way he expected, and why the decision he made this week on a social media platform may have just handed America's adversaries the one thing they have been waiting decades for: a crack in NATO so wide you could drive a tank through it. But first, think about this. If you hired a security guard for your building, paid his salary for 80 years, and then one day he threatened to walk out because you dared to question whether his latest plan was working, what would you do? Would you beg him to stay? Or would you start interviewing replacements? Drop your answer in the comments, because that is exactly the calculation Germany, Italy, and Spain are making right now. And Washington is not going to like the answer. Rewind the clock. Let us rewind the clock, because this did not come out of nowhere. It came out of a war that NATO was never consulted on. When the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran, most NATO allies were not notified in advance. Germany was given a heads up, but given a heads up is not the same as being asked. It is the difference between being a partner and being a courtesy call. The moment those forced strikes landed, European capitals understood something had fundamentally shifted. Washington had gone to war in the world's most strategically sensitive corridor, the region that controls a fifth of the global energy supply, without building a coalition, without a defined end state, without a plan for what happens after the bombs stop falling. Europe watched, Europe warned, and then Europe started talking.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was the one who said what the others were thinking. He called the situation ill-considered. He said he could not see what strategic exit the Americans were opting for. He said the US was being humiliated by Iran. And he said it publicly. That last part is what set Trump off. Because Trump does not mind being questioned in private. What Trump cannot tolerate is being questioned in front of an audience. Merz gave an interview. Merz said the quiet part loud, and within 48 hours, Trump was on Truth Social threatening to pull 36,000 American troops from German soil. Then he expanded the threat to Italy, then to Spain. He said Italy has not been of any help. He called Spain horrible. Absolutely. 3 countries, 3 NATO allies, targeted in 72 hours on social media because their leaders expressed concern about a war they were not invited into. Here's what you need to understand about those troop numbers, because the media coverage is already burying the strategic reality. There are 46,436 active-duty American service members permanently stationed in Germany right now, more than 12,600 in Italy, more than 3,800 in Spain. These are not symbolic presences. These are the backbone of U.S. power projection into Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Ramstein Air Base in Germany is the nerve center for American military logistics across 2 continents. Sigonella in Sicily is how the U.S. projects naval air power into the eastern Mediterranean. Rota in Spain is a critical hub for ballistic missile defense and submarine operations. These are not participation trophies. These are irreplaceable.
That is the accelerant Europe needed, and Trump just handed it to them. If this story is connecting dots you have not seen assembled anywhere else, you are already ahead of the overwhelming majority of people watching this situation unfold. Hit subscribe right now. This is moving faster than any single outlet can track, and you need to be here when the next piece drops. We are tracking every development in real time. Now let us talk about what this actually means for the Iran war, because the 2 stories are inseparable. Trump launched Operation Epic Fury with a 4 to 5 day plan. Kill the leadership, watch the regime fracture, offer a ceasefire from a position of dominance, declare victory. It did not work. Iran rejected the ceasefire. American service members came home in flag-draped coffins. The Strait of Hormuz went dark, and Iran launched wave after wave of retaliatory strikes across the entire region. Europe watched all of this and said, "We told you so." Not loudly, not triumphantly. Merz said it carefully, diplomatically, in the measured language of a former corporate lawyer who understands that burning a relationship is easier than rebuilding one. But Trump heard it as betrayal, and his response to perceived betrayal is always the same: escalation, punishment, a Truth Social post.
The problem is that the punishment is not landing where Trump thinks it is. When Trump threatens to pull troops from Germany, he does not weaken MERS. He weakens every Republican senator who has to explain to defense industry lobbyists why American military contracts and base spending just evaporated from 3 allied countries. He weakens every American strategist who relies on those bases for projection into the Middle East, the very theater where American soldiers are currently fighting and dying. He weakens the credibility of every future American security guarantee to every ally watching this happen in real time.
Poland is watching. The Baltic states are watching. South Korea is watching. Japan is watching. They are all running the same calculation. If Trump will publicly threaten to abandon Germany, France, Italy, and Spain during an active conflict over a criticism posted in a press interview, what happens when they have a disagreement about something that actually matters to American interests? The answer to that question is already changing foreign policy in capitals across the world, quietly, methodically, without a Truth Social post to announce it. So what does this mean for you directly? If you live in the United States, the troop withdrawal threat has costs that will reach your daily life in ways that do not show up in the headlines. American bases in Germany, Italy, and Spain are not just military installations, they are economic engines that support thousands of American jobs, billions in defense contracts, and supply chains that run through allied manufacturing networks. The moment those bases start coming home, you do not just lose the strategic value, you lose the economic infrastructure built around them. Companies that support those installations do not simply pivot, they restructure. And once a supply chain restructures, it does not restructure back. If you work in defense manufacturing, aerospace, or logistics connected to the European theater, these are not abstract geopolitical arguments. These are direct threats to the market structures that pay your salary. And if you fill your car with gas, the Hormuz situation, which Europe is trying to help resolve through the Minesweeper coalition led by Britain and France, that coalition now has less American political backing than it did 72 hours ago. Every day that strait stays closed, energy prices embed themselves higher. And once energy inflation embeds in a supply chain, it does not come back out when a ceasefire eventually gets signed.
Here we come with 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, corporate pressure forces reversal. The most likely path, Trump backs down through corporate pressure. Defense contractors, energy companies, and Republican governors in states with bases connected to European operations start calculating losses. American businesses that depend on German, Italian, and Spanish supply chain integration start lobbying hard. Trump gets a face-saving tweet opportunity. He frames the troops staying as a great deal he personally secured. Europe quietly goes back to baseline. But the trust is permanently damaged. The SAFE program accelerates. The European defense architecture builds out. And the continent that relied on American security guarantees for 80 years starts hedging those bets in a way it never did before. Scenario 2, structural NATO realignment. Trump follows through on one of the troop reductions, even partially, as a demonstration of seriousness. A base in Spain gets announced for drawdown. European defense spending surges. The EU fast-tracks SAFE. Germany deepens its bilateral defense agreements outside the American umbrella. Italy and Spain start exploring what European-led security guarantees actually look like. NATO does not collapse, but it becomes a different institution, one where the United States is a participant rather than an anchor. Once that architecture builds out, it does not simply dismantle when American politics change. The new structure is the new structure. Scenario 3, cascading breakdown. Trump's Iran war expands. Congressional pressure fails to constrain him. European allies, faced with an American president actively punishing them for honesty, begin making decisions that are unimaginable under normal circumstances. Germany publicly accelerates independent nuclear deterrent discussions. France, which already has nuclear weapons, begins informal coordination with Berlin on European deterrence. The transatlantic alliance does not break with a single dramatic announcement. It dissolves quietly, installation by installation, treaty.
Friedrich Merz did not attack the United States. He assessed a war honestly and said what he saw. That is what allies do. That is what the alliance was built to enable. Honest counsel between partners who trust each other enough to disagree. Trump's response was to threaten to dismantle the physical infrastructure of that alliance in real time over a press interview. Merz has since softened his tone. He has reiterated how much he values the transatlantic relationship. He has bent toward conciliation because he is a serious statesman who understands that preserving the relationship matters more than winning a news cycle.
But here is what Merz cannot say publicly, and what every European foreign minister already knows privately. You do not forget when your most powerful ally threatened to abandon you during an active war over a comment in a social media post before breakfast. That memory is permanent. The calculations that flow from it are permanent. And the alternative architectures being quietly built in Brussels, Berlin, Rome, and Madrid right now, those are permanent too. Trump did not start this fight looking for a weaker NATO. He started it because he surrounded himself with people who told him Europe would fold, that the Allies would fall in line the moment Washington applied pressure, that the alliance was a one-way transaction that America could walk away from without consequence. He was wrong about Iran. He is wrong about Europe. And the world is being rebuilt around both of those miscalculations in real time. So I will leave you with this. Did Trump threaten to abandon the alliance that kept the peace for 80 years? Or did he simply reveal what that alliance had quietly become? A relationship where one partner assumed the other would never actually leave. Is Germany protecting the integrity of honest allied counsel? Or has Merz miscalculated how far Trump is willing to go? And when the troops either stay or go, when the decision lands, who will have been right about the price of speaking truth to the most powerful military in human history? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe because the next chapter, the NATO vote, the German defense acceleration, the Hormuz minesweeper coalition, and what happens if Trump actually starts moving troops is coming fast. This story is not slowing down. Do not look away. This content is commentary and analysis for informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial, legal, or geopolitical advice. Consult qualified experts before making any decisions based on the events discussed herein.